Desde la zona estelar verbenáutica, con ustedes, el Sistema Solar.
Oye, la gente del sistema, para que sepan.
Si no te dieron visa, no te escaparás.
¿A dónde te vas a escapar? En la tierra.
Ven, baila con nosotros. Sistema solar.
El sistema, para que sepan.
Si no hay plata en el banco y no tienes nada. Ven, baila con nosotros. Sistema solar.
El sistema, para que sepan.
Sistema solar. Sistema solar. Sistema solar. Sistema solar.
Esta es la manera sistemista que pinta, que se hincha, se pincha. Date lo que quiera, libera, que espera frontera no hay. Yo quiero vivir para que esto se escuche en Hawái. Autóctono, jugando todo mi mono colombiano. Así lo hago a mi modo, me codo del todo, costado, viajando para arriba como el Apolo. Como el Apolo. Como el Apolo de Polo a Polo. Como el Apolo. Como el Apolo de Polo a Polo.
Bienvenidos al concierto musical con el estéreo video láser más popular del mundo, el preferido por todo el círculo social. Por eso, donde suena, el pateo es
Eva, ¿cómo es que dice?
Sistema solar.
Hay que ir,
Sistema solar.
se quedó.
Sistema solar.
Hay que ir,
Sistema solar.
se quedó.
Sistema solar. Sistema solar. Sistema solar.
Hay que ir,
Sistema solar. Sistema solar.
This podcast deserves an introduction. My partner and I were out in Palomino, Colombia, and we ended up having this crazy experience, and we end up in this town called Taganga. And what do you know? We end up staying randomly at this beautiful house that was built by these people who started a band who we saw when I first got to Bogota. So crazy. We get to be in this house, and it turns out, so we figured, fuck, this woman had a crazy experience. It's a woman from France who moved to Colombia, or from Belgium, who moved to Colombia and decided to do an underground hip-hop documentary in some of the most dangerous cities in the world. So the thing is this woman, Vanessa Gocksch, is truly an adventurer in the art of not giving a fuck style, and you'll hear that in the upcoming podcast. But long story short, so you can understand what they get into on this, she came to Colombia, ended up meeting people in the underground hip-hop scene, and then went around and united some of those people while she was making a documentary about it, and then formed a band out of some of the best musicians and hip-hop guys that she could find, and that band is Systema Solar. So when you hear some music on tonight's podcast, that's who's playing. It's Systema Solar. And without further introduction, I'll hand it over to Paula and Vanessa.
Hi everybody, I'm Paula, and today we have Vanessa Gocksch, and she is a wonderful woman, very interesting, with lots of stories to tell. So welcome to the Art of NGF, Vanessa.
Thank you, Paula. Happy to be here with an opportunity to talk to everybody in the US about what we're doing.
Great, great. Yeah, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to the podcast. So, to begin with, I'm curious about because, well, for the people to know, you are from Belgium, and that's pretty far away from Colombia. And so, I'm really curious about the reason why you decided to go out of your country and start traveling around the world.
Well, first of all, my parents themselves lived in several countries, each one.
Oh,
And then I was born in Belgium, although my father is German, my mother is French. And when I was 10, we moved to the US. I lived in Miami until I was 19. I was, after in the US, I wasn't too content. So I wanted to go back to Europe. I did that. I went back to Europe to study art. And then I realized I wasn't too content in Europe either. So I decided to go on a 1-year vacation to Mexico. And when I went to Mexico, I really fell in love, with the country. I remember, I don't know, like one story is that before I had a boyfriend in the US who would tell me, oh, in Mexico, you can find gifts in the mounds. And my vision of gifts, gift wrapped boxes. When I went to Mexico, one of the first places I visited was a sacred mountain. And there was an altar with offerings on the mountain. And then I understood what he meant by gifts. But it was just the change of vision,
Yeah.
It just seems like in Latin America, especially Mexico, which is so mystique, everything takes on a different dimension. The mythical world is still mixed in to the rational. So that was very attractive. And so I stayed in Mexico for 6 years and then decided to travel south to Colombia because people who travel a lot always spoke very highly of Colombia. And I also thought it would be like a nice be where there were no tourists. And when I arrived in '99 in Colombia, there were no tourists at all.
Yeah. Well, actually, the situation at that time in our country was a little rough, no? How was that for you to get here and start seeing maybe things that you haven't seen ever before in your life?
When I don't know, I was at that time I was like maybe a bit attracted to that kind of dangerous kind of situation.
Yeah.
I was actually I was a sculptor when I was in Mexico. And I was actually working on a series of sculptures, which were, I was taking casts of guns, and I was making them into bronze. I would take a gun and make a cast, make it into bronze, and then gold plated. So that was kind of a commentary on the hypocritical attitude towards violence. I don't know. That was the kind of work I was doing. I was also doing other sculptures which were weapon bags.
Yeah.
So when I traveled to Colombia throughout Central America, I made molds of different guns.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
But then to get back to your question, when I arrived in Colombia and then I finally cast the guns and gold plated them, it seemed inappropriate to make an exhibit in Colombia of this work because it was very sarcastic, cynical work, and it didn't, in the context of Colombia, that kind of cynicism, it wasn't adequate because the situation was so complex. So it brought in a whole new depth, of understanding for me because of the complicated situation of Colombia.
Yeah, and I would like to hear more about that moment of that transition, because, well, you have the feeling of adventure, and for the people who listen to our podcast, this is what they are kind of looking inspiration through, hearing the stories of people that actually make that step, of becoming an adventure, and the person who is their lives are in their hands. So it's really your story, of like, well, I actually like some danger, and I actually like to challenge myself, and probably my boundaries, my perceptions about the world. How was for you this transition here in Colombia, when, yeah, a lot of that feeling of wanting to express yourself was somehow shut down in some aspects?
Well, what happened in Colombia is that I kind of turned away from art.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had I had also technical problems with art, because I had the Colombian customs take away my sculptures several times when they were being shipped out of the country. They confiscated the gold guns as though they were real bellic toys.
Mm-hmm.
And then they broke another sculpture of mine looking for cocaine inside it. So that was a bit problematic.
Of course.
But then when I came to Colombia, also, I was very it was very impressive to see that there was so much creativity, and there was so much inspiration, and people with so much to tell, and so many cultures, and nobody knew anything about it. So that inspired me to start not working so much for myself, but sort of working for others in a way, like we started right away trying to put together a hip hop festival, and communicating that there was a hip hop scene in Colombia to the rest of the world. Basically, that was the first thing we did. And I did it with Walter, Help Me Some, in that documentary too. We did the first Testimonios Hip Hop Kolombiano, like in 2001.
Oh, wow.
And it was showed in H2O Film Festival in New York City, and it actually won a prize.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it was, it was that inspiration of trying to communicate what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, nobody was interested in Colombia. Now, Colombia is like having a boom. Everybody wants.
Yeah.
And at that time, I would go to New York and take old cumbia records and try to sell them in those stores where they play vinyl records, and nobody wanted them. They kept asking, "Oh, do you have Brazilian? Do you have Cuban?" I'm like, "No, this is cumbia."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And now it's very popular. So, but I think that was a change that happened in me when I came to Colombia, is to realize that maybe how bad violence can be, just how bad a social situation can be, and just how much also there's the community is so tight knit in Colombia, and how to start working more with the community, for the community, and not just on my own projects.
Yeah, that is definitely an amazing story, because it's a person who comes from a different culture, totally different world vision, and comes to this place where things are complex sometimes, and difficult to really express and show authenticity without feeling absurd somehow. So, and then see all these difficulties, but actually see the possibilities in the middle of all that chaos that for other people could be like, wow, no, that's too much to deal with, but actually taking like, no, there's all this beauty around it, and all these colors, and things that are exploding all the time and no one is looking at it. So that is a pretty inspiring story of, I mean, I'm just really amazed of all the process for you in the little steps, and we haven't even talked about the things that are happening right now. So but yeah, just to mention that it's really good when you're able to see things from the side of the possibilities, what can happen here, rather than paying attention to the lacks or difficulties. So,
but I think that people, you know, in general, even at that time, were very inspired, and everybody had 5 projects that they were working on.
mm-hmm.
Even, you know, if most of the projects were never happening because there was no money, but everybody was really, really proactive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you start catching all that, all those things happening, and start doing things to promote them. So that's really cool. So you mentioned sometimes, well, you mentioned now Walter, and for the audience, Walter is now one of the people involved in Vanessa's work in the band Systema Solar. And when you talk about we and in the stories, who are these people, or that you were working with at the beginning, and you were doing
the
things?
The first person I worked with was Walter, and we started Intermundos as like a collective, and then we made it into a non-for-profit organization. But it's really grassroots. It's still very grassroots. And so Walter and I were working on all this hip hop, and then there was always other people, you know, flowing in and out. And when I was at that time in Bogota, there was also we have a little crew of people that thereafter started doing Bogotrax, which is an electronic music and art festival.
Mm-hmm.
So we were always, you know, doing little things together, parties and, you know, collaborations.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So, and then how you went, so you stay first in Bogota, is that correct? And the first place was Bogota, where you
for about 3 years.
And then you move?
And then I went back to the US for a year, and then I went to Cartagena.
How was that?
Oh, Cartagena's really great. I mean, I personally like the tropical hot, you know, coast. And but the thing is, it's really hard to make money in Cartagena.
Really?
Well, unless you're going to work with tourism. So I didn't stay long in Cartagena, and then I went to Medellin, and then Santa Marta.
Okay.
I went back to Bogota for 1 year too. I kind of hopped around Colombia.
Yeah, well, actually, your nickname is Pata de Perro. And I read in one of the places that actually that comes from Mexico, and is the way they talk, they call people who travels all around and moves a lot, right? How did that name came, or if you can tell us a little bit the short story of how that appeared in your life.
Well, when I was living in Mexico, people would say, "Oh, eres bien pata de perro. You're such a pata de perro." So they kept that nickname, basically.
Cool. So coming back to then in Colombia, the documentary that you make called Frekuencia Kolombiana. Tell us a little bit more about how that came into your life, and how was that appeared in the middle of.
We decided to do Frekuencia Kolombiana because Walter and I had been working with hip hop, him for 10 or more years, and me for 7 years in Colombia. And we had all this accumulated knowledge about the Colombian hip hop scene. And it just seemed like it was, one of the objectives of Intermundos is to communicate what's happening in Colombia to alternative communities worldwide. So making a documentary about Colombian hip hop seemed like the right thing to do. And we did the documentary and made a package where we have this documentary plus, which was 2006, plus the documentary in 2000, plus a booklet and a CD compilation. And if you look at it today, you'll see that most of the people that are in it are now famous at some level. Whether it's in Colombia, some of them have become reggaetoneros. Some of them are famous on the international scene, like Chucky Town. Others on the alternative, activist scene like Diana Abella. So it's really interesting to see how, the development, because we released it right before people started coming to Colombia, which was about 2008, to kind of explore Colombia and see what there was here in culture to promote to the world, which Colombia now is in a big boom.
That is pretty awesome. Be part of that process of showing a different face of a place where the narco traffic and the sad stories had like taking the place of the good stories. So it's really amazing, I suppose, to be part of this movement of new creations and new explorations, and all these people who, as you said, mentioned before, that were wanting, and have all this creativity and ideas and motivation to do things, be able to finally start being heard, being listened and seen by people around the world. So
yeah, I mean, when I arrived to Colombia, the country was really on shutdown. Nobody was visiting Colombia. Colombians hardly could get visas to go anywhere. Yeah. The internet wasn't really working too well yet, right? It was 99.
Yeah.
Even, getting packages into Colombia was complicated because they have the really high customs, what do you call that? Taxes. So if you buy some, and then if you wanted to send something out, you had to also send it like FedEx or it wouldn't get there. So that was really expensive. So it was like, it was big border,
Yeah. How does that make you, how all that made you feel at that time? And I don't know if you have an idea, and maybe dealing with all this, how do you overcome, kind of the frustration or this is a little hard? What was your motivation, or what was the thing that actually made you like, no, we can continue and we are going to do this?
Well, because I just think that there's so much, because it's like the name of your podcast. I mean, you just do things because you have to do them. You don't do things because you're going to become famous or you're going to make a lot of money. People in Colombia usually don't do things because of that motivation, but they usually do things because of the motivation of this is what we have to do. It's like a really strong inspiration, and I'm not the only one to have it. In Colombia, everybody has it, and I think people who come here feel this, like, oh, we have to do this. This is just what we have to do. Like there's an impulse to create, because it's just all around. I don't know, it's some sort of magical thing. So that's what keeps people going at the everyday, wanting to live every day and to create every day.
It's so true.
What was most depressing or impressive to me, and it still is because it hasn't changed, is to see that there's, 60-something indigenous tribes in Colombia. And there's from the day I came to today, they're being exterminated little by little, and nobody knows about this, which is really amazing to me. And that's depressing.
Yeah, and sometimes it's actually difficult, no, as a person. as a psychologist, I've been, and when I was here in Colombia studying and doing stuff and working with people, with groups, sometimes I felt really kind of lost, a feeling of like, well, what am I doing? No one is seeing it. No one cares or seem to don't care about what's going on here and with the people, and not only indigenous, because all the situation now, the people from the countryside, just farmers or families who have to move to the cities, and all those feelings sometimes are difficult, no, to feel or to deal with. How has been that experience for you of seeing all these things and seeing that nothing happens, as you said, like no one knows about it?
Wow. I don't know. That's, I think that's everybody's who's conscious, or the people who are conscious of what's happening to the planet or of other people suffering all over the world have to deal with the same question, of how to spend every day and try to be as happy as possible, although you know that all these terrible things are happening. It's just, but in the end, it's just, you can't get depressed and give up. You have to have faith. I'm not a Christian or anything, but the whole idea of having faith is what will keep the world going. If we all kind of think, oh, this is terrible, we can't do anything, it's impossible, everything will end, then everything will end, because I really believe that in quantic physics, we create the world with our minds, we create the world with our words. And I live now on a farm near the Kogi indigenous people, and they believe the same thing. You create the world with your mind and your thoughts, right? So we have to keep thinking positively for the world to be a good place. And more people we can convince to think positively, the better. And even if there's all these terrible things happening in the world, I really don't spend much time looking at what's happening terrible, because that's going to create a whole bunch of negative energy. Which I don't need to. I don't know, but it's better not to know and just to vibe positive.
That is wonderful what you're saying, Vanessa, because definitely, our podcast and all the Comanche idea is to show to people, this way that there's things happening, there's difficult times in your life, in the world, in every situation, but there's definitely this, as you call the faith, what we call it is the trusting the flow of life. There's this, and there's many names, and that doesn't really matter, what matters is the point that takes, and it's the idea of, if you really trust that beyond difficulties, beyond the appearances, there's something really powerful, and it's in you actually, and you are the creator or co-creator, however you want to call it, of this, what is going on, then your life will flow too. And even though there are going to be the situations, you will be able to keep your eyes open, appreciating all the good things that are around you actually all the time, that we tend to forget when there's moments of stress or sadness or these feelings that we don't like to deal with. Then we just learn to actually appreciate every little thing that is around us and see the beauty in everything. So this is really cool that you got to this point, because actually, to me, at least as I perceive the little that I've read about you and what you have done, is that's how I perceive kind of Systema Solar as a project, and it's these people who are together, they came together and creates this music, which is combining rhythms from Colombian rhythms, but also electronic and other stuff. And they are trying to show like, hey, this colorful, vibrant Colombia, this idea of yeah, things are hard, but let's keep smiling, let's keep happy, let's keep dancing. And it's all this good vibe that you transmit through your songs, rhythms, colors. The videos are amazing. I really recommend you, all the people who are listening to us right now, to watch their videos, because are definitely really cool, and you really kind of get the sense of what you are trying to transmit through those videos. And actually you have to do with those videos, right? You are the one who is behind that, the graphic design of the band, right?
Yeah, I direct or co-direct the videos, and I direct all the visual part of the band, and I'm the VJ, so I mix during the concerts. But yeah, there's also about Sistema Solar, there's also another reason, I mean, which is that in Colombia, there's no freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Right? You can't really say what you think in Colombia because it's dangerous to do so. And the people, I'm from Europe, so I'm not used to this, right? So I have a tendency to say what I think anyway. But people who have the other members of the band, or just Colombians in general, especially if they're not from Bogota, have lived with not having freedom of speech for 20 years or 25. So they were born into that. So it's kind of like in their blood. They're just not used to saying what they think because it's dangerous. And there's certain words that you have to whisper. Even if you're just with your friends, people will whisper it because it's just a habit. So yeah, so that's also one of the reasons that when you decide to do music, you do it in a way that's just really positive, because being against things is not a good idea in Colombia, right? So you have to be for. So that's why everybody's kind of, and I think we're not alone. A kind of a different way of communicating a change is through positive action, instead of saying, we are against this or that. We are, and in general, I think in the world that whole thing of being against things is not going anywhere. You know, it's
totally.
We have to be proactive and pro and looking for the positive. And also, you know, lots of the problems, I don't know, there's an interesting book by William Ospina called La Franja Maria, the yellow line, I think it's called, which describes the problems in Colombia and why they exist.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm really synthesizing his conclusion, but it's something like the lack of identity, right? Especially on the part of the leaders of the country, which are people who study, you know, in boys' schools in England, and then go to some university like Harvard or something, right? So their identity with Colombia is really not connected, right? They don't have an identity, so they don't feel they're Colombian. So that's a big problem, and generally people say that Colombians lack identity. So everything that we do is always trying to make the identity of Colombians feel that their identity is important, and to rediscover their identity and to value their identity. Because that's when you value your identity, that's when you're able to protect what you have, you know? That's the kind of thinking that we work with.
That's really great. So now that we are talking about Sistema Solar, what were the steps that take you to the formation of Sistema Solar? You mentioned there's this festival, Pixelazo in Medellin, and that was before, right? But if you can tell a little bit about that festival, and then like from there, how that all come together to form that band.
Well, actually, Frekuencia Kolombiana was kind of the start, because during Frekuencia Kolombiana, I invited Juan Carlos Pellegrino, which is the producer of Sistema Solar and my companion and father of my children. So he came to Colombia to do to do the soundtrack. And we traveled around Colombia, Walter, Juan, and I, to record the soundtrack and do some more video recordings for the documentary. And so he was coming from Paris after being in Paris 10 years, and he was kind of discovering this music, that these people that were so talented in Colombia, and he was amazed, and he wanted to kind of produce everybody, but at the same time, producing everybody is not, easy.
Yeah.
And at the same time that was going on, we had we were involved in Bogotrax. All of us were involved in Bogotrax, which was in the first editions of Bogotrax, which was a free electronic music and art festival that went on for 10 years in Bogota. Mm-hmm. So we were involved with that. And so Juan was also working with Danny Boom in Bogota on some electronic music. And from Bogotrax, I decided to do the Pixelazo Festival in Medellin, which is an electronic art festival that we did two issues in Medellin and the ghettos of Medellin, like on the Comuna 13, which has always been a very complicated area, and Santa Rosa del Cabal. So for the first time, electronic art was coming out of the university in Colombia and into the barrio. So we had some VJ workshops and lots of interactive electronic art activities on the street. And actually at the same time, we were in Medellin, and a friend of ours, Juan Fernando Espina, was producing the musical part of MD07, which is a contemporary art biennale. And they always do a lot of concerts, so he was looking for a show. And he asked me if I could do something with DJ Fresh, which was doing kind of cumbia hip hop, and I was the DJ. But I told him, we can't, DJ Fresh doesn't do that live, So, but we were thinking of creating a band. Because meanwhile we had spoken, Walter, Juan, and I. We had gone to see a sound system, like a pico, like a champeta pico sound system. In Cartagena, we had gone together to see one. And so we had reached the conclusion that what we had to do was create a sound system with all the people that we thought were good, for getting together to play. But it was just kind of an idea, but we had talked about it. Mm-hmm. And then this guy, Juan Fernando Espina from Medellin, he's like, we want this show. So I told him, we're thinking of building a group. So I called everybody, like the people I thought, within the people I thought who would be into doing something, with us. Mm-hmm. And everybody was like, yeah, let's do it. And so we had 30 days to create Systema Solar for this show in Medellin. So Juan was working in Paris. They got together in Bogota. And everybody kind of threw in their songs that they had, and then they finished them together, and then I made the videos, and we had our first concert in front of a large audience, about 1,000, 2,000 people.
Wow, you really start with the right attitude and right foot.
And it was our friend too who trusted us, because he had no idea. They bought our plane tickets, paid us, so it was amazing.
Yeah.
First concert to have all of this, it was really cool.
Wow. And once again, sorry. Well, what are you saying?
Sorry. Mm-hmm. We all had whooping cough in the family.
Oh, yeah, it's going on, no? Around here.
Oh, yeah? Tosferina, no?
I think so. There's like...
It's an epidemic that's back.
Well, if you need to take a moment or drink some water or something, you can...
I just cough like this every couple hours for a few months.
Okay. Okay. So we were in the
And the second Sistema Solar concert was in the second Pixelazo event, actually.
oh,
Where we also brought a sound system, a Pico, from Cartagena for the first time to Medellin.
do you want to tell us, because I'm sure that many people really don't know what the pickup means in Cartagena. I mean, what is this about?
It's like, I mean, there's a concept which is the Jamaican sound system, which are handmade sound systems, which are really huge. And everybody who can afford to have one has one, and they throw big block parties, right? And I don't know exactly what the scene is like in Jamaica, but they kind of copied that idea here on the Colombian coast. So it's also huge handmade sound systems, and they throw huge block parties. And then there's champeta music, which is a music made in Colombia, but which imitates African suku, right? And they even would take like sometimes not now, like there's versions of these African songs that are made in Colombia with like little even though the African music is made with a lot of instruments, the Colombian music is usually, there's two versions. There's some with instruments, there's another which is just like with little Casios and little fruity loop. And there's another version where or either they make like covers of this African music, or they make new versions because it's been going on for about 15 years, or they just play the African records and rap on top of it in Spanish, kind of, right? So and when you have a champeta party, there's like this guy there's the DJ playing the music, there's another guy who has like a little drum machine type of thing making sounds on top of it, and there's another guy rapping on top of the music.
It's pretty fun music, actually. Do you want to tell us a story? I haven't been in a party, the authentic kind of party of champeta. So could you share a story with us about one of those parties that you probably have been?
Well, that one that we went to in Santa Ana with Walter and Juan was really nice because Cartagena, which is the most touristic place in Colombia, and it's really expensive. It's like really fancy. And then you take a bus, and then you get on a little boat to cross a river, and you're in Santa Ana, which is a really popular area. Just African people, and they have the yearly party of Santa Ana, and there was just lots of sound systems.
Wow.
And it was really great to be there. I remember that event specifically.
Yeah, in how was, because even a person that is from Colombia, when I go to the coast or to any other place, sometimes, of course, people notice that you are not from there, obviously, and especially in the coast where most of the people are black. If you are white, then it's just obvious. How was for you that? Do you have any problems, or was easy for you to kind of connect with people in these places? And you're still doing this. So how has been that process for you of connecting with people from their side? How do you think they perceive you? Or
I don't know. I don't connect so much now. I don't go out towards people as much as before now because I have 2 children, so I stay at home more.
Okay.
No, I've always liked talking to people, and I think if you show them that you're not afraid and you don't feel that you're different in any important way, you're not going to have any problems. So I've never really had problems, The champeta parties are pretty dangerous. It's true. You probably have to go with somebody who's known. And this occasion we went with Anne Swing, which is actually a champeta artist.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
It's like this on the coast. The champeta scene is like the scene of the hoodlum kind of guy. You know, it's like the bad boys are into champeta. So.
Oh, wow. Good that you mentioned that, like you kind of go to with the flow into a situations, not really thinking it too much, but just like, okay, here I am, and let's just do it, no? And here in Colombia, many people who actually sometimes are afraid of coming here because of, oh no, Colombia is so insecure. In Colombia, you cannot go out of the street and because you will die or something like that, you know. And sometimes our people even here are pretty afraid in the cities of going out to other places, no? So it's also good for people who are listening to realize that there's ways, you know, there's always ways where you can do things and still being safe, but enjoying, you know, not repressing yourself from those experiences because you are afraid of.
Well, you just have to be a little street smart, you know, and then not carry around like $1,000.
Yeah.
A big camera, you know.
Totally.
But you always have to have a little money in your pocket. In case they want to rob you, you know, it's good to be able to give them something so they don't get upset.
That concludes part one of Paula's interview with Vanessa Gocksch. Tune in next time when Paula and Vanessa discuss the formation of Systema Solar. As well, Vanessa discusses building her own home and raising her family in her adopted home of Colombia. Vanessa doesn't give a fuck. Tune in.